There's something about the Mafia series, even with the very first game, that makes it the perfect complement and antithesis to Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto. While nearly everyone was attempting to capitalize on the success of Grand Theft Auto 3 following its blockbuster release in 2001, Illusion Softworks, later becoming 2K Czech, would stick to its guns with Mafia in 2002, offering a different kind of crime saga.
Mr. Salieri would like to thank you as well as myself and Paulie. It's compensation for the damage to your car and your services. It should be enough.
Yes, of course. Thanks.
Inspired by cinematic greats like Goodfellas, it focused on Tommy Angelo in a fictitious Prohibition-era city as he joined the Salieri family and became embroiled in a war against the Morellos. Nearly 23 years later, Mafia: The Old Country is set to launch on August 8th for Xbox Series X and S, PS5, and PC. And it's incredible just how similar the situations are. There's still absolutely monstrous amounts of hype for Grand Theft Auto 6, now launching in May of 2026, and for all intents and purposes, Hangar 13's title is very much the underdog, which is fitting because instead of following the path set by Mafia 3 and attempting to cram an even bigger open world into its crime drama, The Old Country is effectively going back to the series' roots. And by that, we mean way back. Players will visit a familiar location, San Celeste from Mafia 2, but this time in the 1900s as they explore the origins of one Enzo Favara. Despite being an indentured worker, his beginnings are very similar to other protagonists in the series, given an extraordinary opportunity to join the Teresi family and effectively forge his own destiny. Money, respect, and the good life all seemingly await, but so does a life of crime. After all, if he wants to be in the family, Enzo has to be willing to make sacrifices, and he's fairly willing, at least initially. Like the first game, what really sets Mafia: The Old Country apart is how it aims for authenticity rather than simply loading the game full of side activities and other disposable content, substituting one in-game playground for another. It features Sicilian voice acting and Italian localization, and the overarching gameplay loop is in keeping with the time. The Mafia had access to firearms like sawed-off shotguns, rifles, and pistols, but ammo wasn't as common. Instead, Enzo will have to employ a fair amount of sneaking around and executing enemies, though sometimes you will have to get into tense knife fights up close. Having to think twice about using precious ammo is one thing, forcing you to approach some situations a little differently. However, the knife taking such precedence is more than just an integral part of gameplay. As Associate Game Director Joshua Zammit described it in a Developer Insights video, it's a part of Sicilian culture. We want our gameplay to be immersive, to have a life or death kind of vibe. So when players are in a knife duel, when they're in a gunfight, they're genuinely fearing for their lives. But aside from that fear, there's also something enthralling about this kind of close-quarters melee combat, where a single strike can be fatal. It adds yet another layer of drama and personal stakes to a series that's simply brimming with it. And such was the commitment to authenticity for even the knives that the studio ventured into. Some tiny little backwater of a machine shop where the guy and his son were still crafting knives by hand, imbuing them with their particular regional styles, known for their thumbprints, if you like, of their particular approach to building knives. This is uniquely inherent to Mafia: The Old Country and further makes you feel immersed in Sicilian Mafia culture. Of course, in keeping with the times, players will have access to vintage roadsters, yet still have to make many journeys on horseback. San Celeste has its share of alleyways and streets, but you shouldn't expect the same urban playground as other titles with tons of traffic and pedestrians. It has a more rural vibe, which also means venturing into the fields and even engaging in firefights on horseback. The effect is frantic and unstable, seemingly mirroring real life, though hopefully the gameplay doesn't prove too unwieldy. The variety of locales is fairly different from the urban settings of previous games, leading to fresh gameplay scenarios. It also feels more organic, further adding to the immersion and really making you feel like you're Enzo Favara, viewing this familiar city with a fresh perspective, albeit one primarily motivated by bloodshed. However, perhaps the biggest reason why Mafia: The Old Country is such a big deal is its gameplay structure and price. Unlike Mafia 3, it's taking a similar approach to the first two games, that is, focusing on a linear narrative-focused campaign. This isn't to say that it's sticking you to one particular path, one with incredibly cinematic cutscenes, but still. Instead, you can explore off the beaten path as studio president Nick Baines described it. He wouldn't strictly use the term open world because there won't be endless side quests and activities, which is a relief after Mafia 3. Instead, Hangar 13 wants you to experience the story in this world to find out what happens next, but without completely restricting you. What a concept. Of course, there's also the pricing. In an industry where the quadruple A experiment has pretty much failed, and the new tactic is to simply price AAA titles at $70 to $80 and call it a day, Mafia: The Old Country is only $50. Yeah, there's a $60 deluxe edition with cosmetics and a digital art book and soundtrack, but the game itself costs $50. Seeing this kind of pricing from a major franchise, especially one published by 2K, whose parent company Take-Two Interactive is probably chomping at the bit to charge $100 for GTA 6, is surprising. One could take this as a lack of confidence. Maybe this pricing is because 2K is unsure whether people will really take the plunge, especially after being disappointed with the franchise in the past. Maybe it's not confident in the overall quality of the product. However, with other high-quality titles this year adopting this price point, I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. It could deliver quote-unquote only 20 hours of gameplay for completionists, but if Mafia: The Old Country tells a story that's worth my time, then it's a win-win for me. Based on the presentation and focus of the development thus far, it's certainly trending in that direction. Of course, nothing is guaranteed, and I've already seen criticisms regarding the animations, the gunplay, combat, stealth, you name it. Without the benefit of something like Game Pass to provide maximum exposure, even if it will undoubtedly eat into sales, I could see a significant number of players ignoring Mafia: The Old Country while they wait for bigger releases. Nevertheless, if it lives up to expectations and delivers a memorable narrative, it could prove to be more than just one of the biggest games of the year, instead acting as a catalyst for the series' revival. As always, time will tell, but given the streak of $50 games thus far, here's hoping that Hangar 13 can pull it off and restore the franchise's glory. Hey, did you know that we at GamingBolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.